have your Bibles, Matthew chapter 20 is where we're going to be. Matthew chapter 20. One of the favorite things that I like to do over the summer is listen to music. Whether you're out by the pool or on the beach or whether you're just having the windows down, music up, I love listening to music. So I want to see if you can guess the last words of some of the most famous songs that I'm going to mention to you today. There's a song that was written in 1977. It was inspired by football chants as an anthem of triumph. And it goes a little bit like this. They sang this in New York City last night, that we are the champions, right? We are the champions, my friends. Okay, what about this one? 1982 song was written for the movie Rocky III, inspired from the script of that movement. It's the Eye of the Tiger, right? What about this? A 1985 song about the desire for human power and control. Everybody wants to. I'm proud of y'all. There you go. Okay. Everybody wants to rule the world, right? And so we know these songs. Those songs are from the 70s and 80s. What do these songs have to do with what we're talking about this morning? As it turns out, in the 70s and 80s, they had some of the same desires that we have today. And that desire is for personal greatness. Everybody desires it. It doesn't matter what your culture is like, what technology is like. It doesn't matter the day in which you live. It doesn't matter what the trends or the fashion is in this era. Everybody in every era desires greatness, power, control, authority. Everybody desires that. It's across the board. And so what we're going to do is we're going to conclude our time in Matthew chapter 20. If you've been with us for a long time, you know we've been going verse by verse through the book of Matthew, taking it passage by passage. This is the last lesson on chapter 20. Now, chapter 14 through 20 is really all about Jesus training up his disciples. And when he was training up his disciples, one of the things that we notice is Jesus didn't say, hey, I'm going to hold a seminar. I'm going to create a conference. I'm going to have a massive stadium, and I want you all to listen to me give a TED Talk on the stage. He didn't do a lot of his training like that. He did a lot of it personally. He did a lot of it experientially. And so he said, hey, listen, guys, as I'm doing ministry, as I'm teaching, as I'm doing miracles, as I respond to different things that happen, I want you just to watch. And I want you to see what happens, because there's going to come a day, and he said this multiple times, that I'm not going to be with you. And so I want to train you up for when I'm not with you. I want to make sure that you're ready to go. Now, next week, as we dive into chapter 21, did you know that we'll take an 8-chapter journey that really only covers about 1 week of time? 1 week of time. The last 8 chapters of the book of Matthew actually only cover about 1 week of time, and it's the last week of Jesus' life. But before we get to that, we need to address this issue of greatness. It's come up with his disciples now multiple times. And if we're honest, it's kind of silly every time it comes up. We're like, guys, why are you so concerned about this? Until you look in the mirror, until you think about your life, until you're like, man, I was a Christian for decades. I've gone to church. I've gone to every single kids camp, VBS, Wednesday night. I've done it all. And yet I still struggle with personal greatness, ambition, wanting some things selfishly for my life. And so what does Jesus teach his disciples in this last passage of Matthew 20 about what true greatness really is? About what true greatness really is. First thing I want you to see in the text today is the road to greatness involves sacrifice. The road to greatness involves sacrifice. Look at verse 17. It says, and as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside, and on the way he said to them, see, we are going up to Jerusalem, And the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified, and he will be raised up on the third day. So as Jesus was making this journey with his disciples, he turns to them, pulls them aside, and gives them another training time. I want you to see a detail that Mark gives in this encounter. Mark chapter 10, verse 32 says, "And they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them." Jesus was leading the way in this journey. The journey that they're on from Jericho to Jerusalem is about 14 miles. And even though that may seem like a short trip, it's not so short when you heard that they would be traveling about 2,500 feet above sea level. They were going up. But Jesus was not reluctant in the journey that he was on. He was going up there willingly. He was at the front of the pack. But he was saying, at the front of the pack, he was saying a very serious message. He told them that he was going to be betrayed and delivered over to the religious and political leaders. He was going to be sentenced to death and would be mocked and flogged and crucified. This was not a fun road trip conversation. Right? This was not something that was light or fun. He is telling them for the third time that we see in the book of Matthew that his future would involve significant, listen to me, significant suffering and sacrifice. And in writing about his suffering, it's commonly spoke of in the New Testament in the plural. It doesn't say that Jesus suffered or just his suffer. It says his sufferings. Plural, multiple. 2 Corinthians 1:5 says, "For as we share abundantly in Christ's sufferings, so through Christ we share abundantly in comfort too." Philippians 3:10, "That I may know him and the power of his resurrection and may share his sufferings, becoming like him in his death." 1 Peter 1:11, "Inquiring what person or time the Spirit of Christ in them was indicating when he predicted the sufferings of Christ and his subsequent glories." 1 Peter 4:13, "But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed." Why does it refer to it in the plural? Well, first of all, just as he told his disciples, his suffering was multidimensional. It was going to be multiple parts to it. It wasn't simple. It wasn't insignificant. It was going to be significant. He was taking on all the sin of the world on his shoulders. So not only was it the physical pain of being flogged and being hung on a cross, but he was also dealing with the weight of sin, the spiritual side of it, but also the emotional side. I mean, we realize that one of his 12 disciples is about to be the very one who betrays him. He was thinking about all the people that he had ministered to, and now these people that were once cheering him on as he came into town are now going to be saying, "Crucify him. Give us Barabbas, a convicted murderer, instead of him." And yet he's about to hang on the tree and make a sacrifice to give everyone the amazing gift of salvation. And I want you to know this, Jesus shows us in this passage. True sacrifice is never found outside. True greatness is never found outside of sacrifice. You may have to sacrifice your status or your standing in the world. You may have to sacrifice the desires of your sinful flesh. You see, even though this is the third time he's telling his disciples about the sacrifice he was going to have to make, it still went over their heads. They still didn't recognize what it was that he was saying. They had in their minds a crown. Hey, we're going to become these political leaders. He's here to set up an earthly kingdom. They had on their mind a crown. He had on his mind a cross. He said, "I'm not coming to set up my earthly kingdom here. I'm coming to take on a cross because I'm setting up a kingdom that's far more valuable and important than anyone that's found on this planet." True greatness is found in sacrifice. We need to remember that. It's not easy street. It's not going to be easy for us to truly be great people. It's going to involve significant sacrifice in our life. Second thing I want you to see is this. The road to greatness rejects selfishness. So it involves sacrifice, but it also rejects selfishness. Look at verse 20. It says, "Then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to him with her sons. And kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, 'What do you want?' And she said to him, 'Say that these two sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your kingdom.' And Jesus answered, 'You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am to drink?' And they said to him, 'We are able.' He said to them, 'You will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and my left is not mine to grant. For it is for those for whom it has been prepared by the Father.' And when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, 'You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them.'" Okay, so what's happening here? So basically, the mother of James and John, we believe that her name is Salmon. It was a sister of Mary, the mother of Jesus. Basically, Jesus' aunt, right? And so this is who that is in the story. James and John were called the sons of thunder, which was quite a nickname for both of them. It meant that they were not calm. Let's just say that. Maybe some of you can relate. Maybe you have kids or no kids that are not calm. They are not just sitting down and just reading a book and enjoying life. They're crazy. They're all over the place, jumping on couches. We had 55 of them here this week. And so we have plenty of sons and daughters of thunder this week, but we had a great time. And so here's the thing. I realize where they got it. They got it from their mom. Because their mom goes out on a limb and goes up to Jesus and makes a very, very insensitive request. I mean, can you imagine this? You're talking to somebody and they tell you, "Hey, listen, I just want to tell you my future, it's going to be really rough. I'm going to have to suffer. I'm going to be delivered over to leaders, falsely accused. I'm going to be convicted. Then they're going to flog me. They're going to flog me. They're going to make my body almost unrecognizable. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they're going to hang me on a tree and they're going to make me suffocate to death." That's what's in my future, everybody. Hey, listen, I got a question for you. Can my son sit at your right and your left? Is that okay? I mean, how did we get here? How insensitive is that, right? I mean, you're missing the moment. You're not reading the room, right? This is like really serious talk time. You know, I tell my boys a lot. I said, "Hey, read the room, guys. This is not the time to do what you're doing," right? They need to know, their little minds. They just don't know yet. But I'm trying to help them understand. Well, this mother, she still wasn't getting it. She makes a very selfish request. Basically, "Hey, I want James and John to be your right and your left hand person. I want them to be in a seat of greatness and authority and power and influence. I want to make sure that they are good," right? That's what she is asking. It is incredibly selfish. And I just think about how so many times in our life we need to be reminded that where that comes from is pride. And can I just tell you this morning, pride is the very epicenter of sin. Pride is the epicenter of sin. If you're talking about an earthquake and you're talking about how the waves go out and how the damage occurs, ultimately there's this quest to figure out, where did it begin? Where did it start? Where was the epicenter? If you want to know where sin began, it's with pride. We see it in the very beginning when an angel of light thinks of himself as greater than he actually is, wants to ascend up to God himself, and God's like, "No, it doesn't work like that," and so casts him and all of his followers down. And then when the first humans are created, what does Satan say to Eve to tempt her? You know, God has said that you cannot eat of this fruit of that tree. But you know what? God knows that when you do, your eyes will be opened. And then what does it say? And you will be like him. You will ascend up. You need to go up. You need to be higher and higher. You see, it's all about pride. Oh, maybe God's holding out on us. Maybe he doesn't want us to be equals with him. You see, the truth is we could never be equals with him. We are created. He is the creator. You see, we need to make sure that we are not off on that. And so that was then and this is now. You're like, well, Josh, yeah, I mean, you know, I've heard these stories. I've heard the stories about how, you know, Satan fell. I've heard the stories about Adam and Eve and pride and everything. Do we still deal with this today? Yeah. I mean, think about it. We're living in a month of time that's been deemed in our culture to be Pride Month, where we have descended to celebrate our sin. Now, some might try to excuse this and think that it does not affect the church, but listen to me. If Jesus' very aunt would make such a selfish request, we are not immune from it. And what was Jesus' response? Jesus' response in the text is that you're not ready for greatness because you don't realize what true greatness cost. You're not ready to drink the cup. He talks about cost with a cup. You're not ready to go through the suffering and the sacrifice that it's going to take. He asks them that, and they say, yeah, we're ready for it, not realizing even what they were saying. And then what is Jesus' response? Jesus' response was, oh, wait, well, you will drink the cup. You will drink the cup. You know, it's interesting when we read about what happened to James and John, the rest of their lives. James is the first recorded martyr of any of the disciples. John lives one of the longest lives, but one of the most difficult of lives. He ends his life completely separated from everyone else. His life was not easy. Both of them went through immense suffering. He told them, hey, you're going to drink the cup. If you're ready for it or not, I don't know, but you're going to drink the cup. You're going to be in a time of suffering. But he reminds us again, it's going to take sacrifice if you really want true greatness. Then in the text, the other 10, they lose their tempers. They get mad. I don't know if it's because they didn't think of it first or what the deal was, but basically they're like, why are they asking for pole position? Like, why are they asking for that high authority in their life? What about us? That means that we're not at the right and the left hand of God. And so true greatness, listen, has nothing to do with position. It has everything to do with mission. And what we need to do is we need to get back to what Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians when he said, for the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecution, calamities. For when I am weak, then I'm strong. Then I'm strong. That's what it means to be truly strong, is to realize our personal weakness. And at some point, the disciples do get it. The disciples do get it because they're willing to give up their lives for him. They're ready to take on the sacrifice and the suffering that it was going to take. They had rejected selfishness in their life. Pastor Jeff wrote this line in his sermon for this week. I thought it was so good, I was going to share it with you. Suffering comes before significance, brokenness before usefulness, humility before authority, pain before glory. This is the path to greatness. There are no shortcuts. Last thing I want you to see is this. The road to greatness requires servanthood. Look at verse 26 and how this all comes together here at the end. He says, it shall not be so among you, meaning you shall not lord over people with your greatness. That's not what it's about. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. And as they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him. And behold, there were two blind men sitting by the roadside, and when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. The crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent, but they cried out all the more, Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David. And stopping, Jesus called them and said, what do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Lord, let our eyes be opened. And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes, and immediately they recovered their sight and followed him. All right, I want you to see this. The road to greatness is not about a race to the top for power or position. It's about becoming a servant. It's about becoming a servant. A servant in the text is where we get our word for deacons. Deacons. It means to wait on tables. That's what it literally means. There's also the word slave in there, doulos in there. Now, can I just ask you a question? I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about your life, and we're going to put a slide up on the screen, and I want you to internally, not out loud, please, internally think about this question. If you were to take a percentage of your life on how much you are serving others without anything in return, what would be the percentage of your life right now that you would categorize in that way? Likewise, how much would you categorize working to put yourself in a better place or position? I think we have that here. So working to put yourself in a better place or position, or, going back one slide, serving others without anything in return. If you're thinking about what percentages do I put for those two categories? If I were to categorize everything in my life, where does it go? Now, a lot of you are saying maybe, hey, I want to do something for my kids in a way that you're being like the mom in that story, remember? It's not just about your family's benefit, right? But ultimately about serving others, caring about others without the expectation of anything in return. And I think a lot of us, if I were to say, hey, let's go around the room and let's share our percentages today, I think a lot of us, including me, would be embarrassed because of how low our percentage would be of how much time we spend serving others without the expectation of anything in return. But do you realize that's the type of servanthood that Jesus is talking about because of what we see in the text about the example? Two blind men in the story that are calling out to him. That the crowd says, hey, be quiet. Don't mess with Jesus. Stop being annoying. And Jesus, what does he do? He stops for them, realizing they don't have any power or authority. They're not going to do any favors for him. He gets nothing out of this, but he cares so much about them. What does it mean to be a servant? Listen to me. Servants stop for the ones everyone overlooks. Servants stop for the ones that everyone else overlooks. The crowd had overlooked them. They were white noise to them. It did not matter how loud that they cried out. It did not matter how much they cried out. They had been doing this over and over and over again. It did not matter. They did not see them. They did not see them, which is ironic because they couldn't see the crowd. They were invisible people. But Jesus stops for the very ones that so many others have overlooked. That's what it means to be a servant. That's what it means to be truly great. Second thing, servants help even when it's hard. Servants help even when it's hard. There are times in our life to genuinely help somebody is going to take time. It's going to take energy. It's going to take effort. It's going to take us getting our hands dirty. It's going to take sacrifice of our time, of our effort, of what we wanted to do to help somebody in need. But that's what it means to be a servant. Listen, it's not just, hey, be a servant when it's convenient to you. That's not what Jesus is talking about here. I want to be very, very clear. I don't want us to Americanize this passage to be like, well, when it's convenient, I will serve others. And when it's inconvenient, I won't. That's not what he's talking about. Thirdly, servants do whatever it takes for people to see Jesus. Ultimately, Jesus was physically healing them from blindness. They saw for the very first time when he healed them. And you know, the first thing that they saw was Jesus. There are spiritually blind people all around us. And what we need to do is we need to show them, hey, I know someone. I know something. It's called the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it affects your life in a significant way. And you can go from spiritual blindness to spiritual sight. And the first thing that you're going to see is Jesus for who he really is. He can change your life. He cares so much about you. You may not think you're worth anything, but he thinks you're worth everything. He gave his life for you. You may not think that you have any purpose in your life, but you do have a purpose for your life. Why? Because he died to give you a purpose for your life. He cares so much about you. Would you open your eyes? Would you see him? We'll do whatever it takes to help somebody to see Jesus. Are we that kind of people that say, I'm going to pursue true greatness? I want to be great. Okay, hold on now. The road to greatness involves sacrifice. Ooh, I don't really like sacrifice. That doesn't sound fun. It involves rejecting selfishness. I kind of prefer myself. I don't know. But this is what true greatness looks like. Well, you know, Josh, okay, well, it requires servanthood. Servanthood doesn't sound fun. I would like other people to serve me. Think about this. Jesus himself said, I didn't come to be served. If the God of the universe is saying that, shouldn't we? Right? Are y'all with me today? We should be these people to say we're going to serve. Hey, if we want to be a truly great church, and by that I mean not a Sunday morning experience, but a true community of believers, this is what we have to pursue. This is the road that we have to go down if we're willing to do this.